All right, let's dive right in. Something massive is happening, kind of under the radar in the world of global finance. We're talking about a huge shift, a story that connects oil, China's currency, and, you guessed it, a major comeback for gold. You're not going to want to miss this.
So it really all boils down to this one big question. Is there a quiet deal happening right now to trade oil for gold? And is it totally reshaping the global economy? Are some of the biggest players out there secretly building a whole new financial system, one that doesn't need the US dollar? The signs are pointing to yes, and it all seems to center on this fascinating oil for gold idea.
Okay, so where's the proof? Well, the first big piece of the puzzle is this really groundbreaking setup between Saudi Arabia, the king of oil, and their number one customer, China. People who watch the markets closely are all buzzing about it. They're saying this could be a real game changer.
So how does it work? It's actually pretty straightforward, just 3 steps. Step 1, Saudi Arabia sells its oil to China, but instead of dollars, they get paid in Chinese yuan. Okay, simple enough. Step 2, that yuan gets deposited right into the Saudi central bank. Now here's the kicker, the really clever part. Saudi Arabia can take that yuan and immediately flip it into physical gold using the Shanghai Gold Exchange. See what's happening? They've created this perfect loop where oil basically becomes gold, and the US dollar is nowhere in sight. It's completely bypassed.
So you've got to be thinking, is this a full-on attack on the dollar? Well, most analysts are saying not exactly, at least not yet. The goal right now isn't to tear everything down. It's more about building options. Think of it like financial insurance, creating an alternative path for a future where putting all your eggs in the US dollar basket feels, well, pretty risky.
And that just begs the question, right? Why are they going through all this trouble in the first place? I mean, why are these huge, powerful countries suddenly so focused on building a plan B? What is making them so nervous about the current system?
Well, the answer is that some serious cracks are starting to show in the foundation of the dollar's empire. Look, for decades, the dollar has been the undisputed king of the hill. But now, a few key things are happening that are making a lot of countries take a step back and say, maybe it's time to rethink this whole thing.
And you can see it in the data. Now, don't get me wrong, the US dollar is still the big boss. It makes up about 57% of all global reserves. But here's the thing, back in 1999, that number was over 71%. That's a pretty significant drop. It's not a sudden collapse, but it's this slow, steady drip, drip, drip of countries moving their money elsewhere.
So what's really driving this? It's basically 4 big things. First, the fear of sanctions. When the US and its allies froze $300 billion of Russia's money, that sent a massive shockwave around the world. Every central banker out there thought, whoa, if they can do it to them, they can do it to us. Your dollar assets are suddenly a political tool. Then you've got the US national debt. It's soaring towards $39 trillion. That kind of makes you question how safe those safe haven US bonds really are. Add in a dash of unpredictable US policy and this growing hunger for countries to control their own destiny, and boom, you've got the perfect recipe for wanting an alternative. Okay, let's clear something up, because you've probably seen this online. There's this myth going around about a 50-year petrodollar treaty that just expired. Here's the truth. That treaty never existed. There was no formal piece of paper with an expiration date. What there was an informal handshake-style agreement back in '74 that oil would be priced in dollars. And that agreement was incredibly powerful. So what's happening now isn't a contract ending. It's that old understanding just kind of fading away.
All right, so we get the motive. We get why they're doing it. But what about the how? How are they actually building this thing? What are the nuts and bolts, the pipes and wires of this whole new financial universe?
Well, to find the answer, you have to look at the BRICS Plus alliance. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and their new partners. They're really the architects here, the ones on the front lines drawing up the blueprint for a totally parallel financial world.
And one of the cornerstones of their plan is this thing called BRICS Pay. The best way to think about it is like building a whole new set of railway tracks. They're not trying to tear up the existing tracks. That's the SWIFT system we all use now. No, they're building a brand new line that runs right alongside it. This new track lets BRICS countries connect their payment systems directly so they can trade with each other using their own currencies. It's all about creating another option.
And what's the engine for these new trains? It's technology called central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. And man, are they moving fast on this. Just look at the list. The UAE, Iran, Nigeria, Kazakhstan. All these countries are deep into developing or have already launched their own digital money. This isn't just a few tech nerds in a basement. This is a massive coordinated push to build the foundation for this new system.
And listen, this isn't just some PowerPoint presentation or a far-off dream.
These new financial rails are already up and running and carrying some serious cargo. There's a project called mBridge, which connects the digital currencies of China, the UAE, Thailand, and others, and it's already processed over $55.5 billion in transactions. It's live, it works, and it's growing fast.
But here's where it gets really fascinating, just a beautiful paradox. You have this incredibly modern, high-tech push for digital money, and what are they choosing to anchor it to? The oldest, most trusted financial asset in human history, gold. As they build this new digital world, they're backing it up with good old-fashioned physical gold.
And all that buying has led to a truly historic moment. In early 2026, something happened for the first time in 30 years, since 1996. The total value of gold that central banks are holding officially became worth more than their holdings of U.S. Treasury bonds. We're talking about $4 trillion in gold versus $3.9 trillion in treasuries. That's not just a number, that's a massive psychological shift. It's a signal that, for many, the ultimate safe asset is no longer just U.S. debt.
So how on earth did we get here so fast? It's all about the acceleration. Central banks were already buying a decent amount of gold through the 2010s, but then 2022 happened and Russia's money got frozen. That was the trigger. The pace of gold buying literally increased fivefold. By 2025, they were buying a record-breaking 1,100 tons in a single year. Why? Because they're all rushing to an asset that has zero counterparty risk.
And when you have that much buying, you know what happens to the price. It went through the roof. Gold just exploded, jumping over 70% in 2025 alone, smashing past $5,500 an ounce. And that incredible price surge is what poured gasoline on the fire, supercharging the value of all the gold they were buying and pushing it right past the value of their treasury holdings.
Okay, so the rest of the world is making some big moves. The obvious question is, what is the US doing about it? How is America responding to all this? From what we can see, the strategy has two parts: play defense and prepare for what's coming.
On the defense side of things, the approach is, well, pretty blunt. Take this post from former President Donald Trump. He put out a very clear warning, basically saying to the BRICS countries, if you create a new currency to replace our mighty dollar, you're going to face 100% tariffs. It doesn't get much more direct than that. It's using economic muscle to protect the dollar's top spot.
And then there's the prepare part of the strategy. This is more proactive. The U.S. is launching something called Project Vault. It's a $12 billion plan to stockpile critical minerals. You know, the stuff you need for all modern tech, defense, and cars, like lithium, cobalt, and rare earths. The whole point is to stop being so dependent on China for these things, and to create a 60-day emergency supply, a buffer, just in case things get rocky. It's about making the home front more secure.
So all of this brings us to the big final question. It seems pretty clear we're heading into a world with multiple financial powers, not just one. But what does that world look like? Is it a peaceful evolution where these new systems just kind of exist alongside the old ones, offering more choice? Or are we watching the opening moves of a much bigger, much more serious economic showdown? Honestly, nobody knows for sure. But one thing's for certain, the next few years are going to be absolutely critical